Hello, Kaden. Today we're going to read Grammy's Kitchen by Sadé Smith. Shelly-Ann lived on the beautiful island of Jamaica, where the sun is always shining and the weather is sweet. Her Grammy had lots of vegetables and fruit trees growing in her yard and all around her house. She even had a big mango tree. Shelly-Ann liked to climb or lie under it, snacking on mangoes all day long. Shelly-Ann loved when her Grammy took her to the market to buy rice, which she would sometimes carry on top of her head. That always made Shelly-Ann laugh. Shelly-Ann loved her Grammy. In fact, Grammy was Shelly-Ann's most favorite person in the whole wide world. One afternoon, Shelly-Ann was picking vegetables in the garden when the scent of sweet peppers made her very hungry. So she went in the house to ask her Grammy for something to eat. "Grammy, how do you make dumplings?" Shelly-Ann asked. Grammy smiled and said, "GYAL, you BETTA CAN COOK," and she promised to teach her. Grammy pulled out her iron pot and recited the recipe to Shelly-Ann from memory. "Need 2 cups of flour with 3/4 of a cup of water," said Grammy, "and don't forget the pinch of salt." Shelly-Ann rushed to the pantry to get the flour. Her mouth watered as she imagined taking a bite of a soft, fluffy dumpling. But when she took them out of the frying pan, they were all black and burnt. "I can't cook," cried Shelly-Ann. "Don't worry," said Grammy. "Dumplings burn easily if you leave them in the frying pan for too long. You'll get it right next time." The next day, Shelly-Ann was playing hopscotch on the sidewalk when she became hungry. She went inside and asked her Grammy for something to eat. "Grammy, how do you make ackee?" Grammy replied, "GYAL, you BETTA CAN COOK." Grammy pulled out her recipe card and read the instructions to Shelly-Ann. "Pick a ripe ackee that has split open on its own. Peel the ackee and boil only the yellow parts in water until tender. Then fry until cooked. Make sure you don't ever eat the seeds." Luckily, Shelly-Ann could just reach the bright orange fruit in the tree and in Grammy's backyard with a little help. The yellow ackee swirled around in the pot until it was soft and tender. When Shelly-Ann was finished frying it, she thought the ackee looked a little bit like scrambled eggs. But when she took a bite, the ackee was too soft. "I can't cook," cried Shelly-Ann. "Don't worry," said Grammy. "Ackee is easy to overcook. You'll get it right next time." A few days later, Shelly-Ann was skipping rope on the porch when her stomach rumbled. So she went to ask her Grammy for something to eat. "Grammy, how do you make saltfish?" Grammy smiled and answered, "GYAL, you BETTA CAN COOK." Grammy went to the cupboard to pull out a skillet and to gather the ingredients. "Soak the codfish in water for 2 hours, then saute all your vegetables and herbs. Add the saltfish, mix it all together, and cook until tender." The scent of spices filled the entire kitchen. Shelly-Ann was so excited to try the fish. But when she took a bite, it was too salty. "I can't cook," cried Shelly-Ann. "Don't worry, you'll get it right next time," said Grammy. "The fish needs to soak a long time to make it less salty." The following morning, Shelly-Ann was chasing chickens around the coop. It made her very hungry, so once again she went inside to ask her Grammy for something to eat. "Grammy, how do you make plantains?" Grammy grinned. I know," Shelly-Ann said with a giggle. "GYAL, you BETTA CAN COOK." Grammy laughed as she pulled out the frying pan and a spatula. "Pick some ripe plantains, then peel and slice them into thin pieces. Fry the plantain slices in oil until brown and tender," Grammy told Shelly-Ann. The slices of plantain popped and sizzled in the oil, and Shelly-Ann's mouth watered. But when she took a bite, they were too mushy. "I can't cook," cried Shelly-Ann. "Plantain slices need to be a little bit thinner," said Grammy. "Don't worry, you will get it right next time." I don't want to learn how to cook anymore, Shelly-Ann said. I've tried and tried, and I never get it right. Grammy wiped Shelly-Ann's tears, then picked up her homemade recipe book and handed it to her granddaughter. If you try and you don't succeed, try, and try again. Well, when Shelly-Ann woke up the next morning, she noticed that Grammy was still asleep. She was very hungry, so she tiptoed into Grammy's bedroom. Grammy, she whispered, can you make me something good for breakfast? With a sigh, Grammy replied, I'm too tired to cook this morning, and she closed her eyes and went back to sleep. Shelly-Ann went to the kitchen table and sat down. She opened the recipe book to find old pictures of family and friends in the neighborhood enjoying Grammy's prize-winning dumplings. The smiles on their faces reminded Shelly-Ann how much joy Grammy's dumplings bring to everyone. It must have taken Grammy a lot of practice to make the perfect dumplings, Shelly-Ann said to herself. Then she became excited. I just have to try, and try again, Shelly-Ann said. And don't forget the pinch of salt. She went out to the yard to gather what she needed. She hauled all the ingredients into the kitchen and pulled out a big Dutch pot and skillet from the cupboard. She fried the dumplings, she cooked the ackee, she soaked the saltfish, she sliced the plantain, just like Grammy had taught her. Shelly-Ann put all the food on 2 big plates and tiptoed into Grammy's room. Grammy, she whispered, wake up. Grammy opened her eyes. Dumplings, ackee, saltfish, and plantains? Grammy was delighted. Grammy took one bite of the food, then she took another and another. GYAL, you can cook, Grammy explained. Shelly-Ann beamed with joy. I can, Grammy nodded and said, and it's even better because you made it with love. Shelly-Ann was very proud of herself for making Grammy the perfect breakfast. The dumplings were not burnt, well, maybe a little. The ackee was not too soft, most of it anyway. The saltfish was not too salty, nothing a little pepper couldn't fix. And the plantains were not too mushy, at least the ones that in the back weren't. Everything was airy.